Hey guys, and welcome to another episode of Girl, Is That Legal? With your host, attorney Simone Redwine. And I'm so excited to have you guys here tonight. Last night on the channel, we had a long night. So not only did we break down the hearing that took place July 1st with Judge Glenville, where he recused himself, sort of, from some of the YSL proceedings, but we also broke down the recently released transcript of the secret meeting between the prosecutors, the judge, and YSL Woody and his attorney Kayla Bumpus. Now, Attorney Bumpus is scheduled to join us today. She's scheduled to join us today. However, we know she's got a busy schedule. There's a lot that's been going on in her cases. So we'll see if she's still able to make it. But if not, we've also got some new information on Diddy's criminal cases. Now, on the Diddy front, what's going on there is that the grand jury is currently meeting. They are actually deliberating. They are hearing evidence from witnesses. And so we'll get into that too. So first, let us know where you are joining from, where you're watching from. We got a new member. Hey, Brandis. Thank you so much for joining. I do have membership now, guys. On the membership, I'm going to be giving you a little bit more of the tea regarding Diddy and the Diddy case and some of what I know. I have a lot of different peers. If you've been following me for a while, you know that I was one of the attorneys that represented one of R. Kelly's victims from the surviving R. Kelly saga. I actually was the first one to file any of the civil lawsuits against him being R. Kelly in the state of New York. So I'm quite familiar with strategies and processes and what it takes to bring down criminal music moguls in this industry. So, and by bring down, I don't mean the innocent. I am talking about the ones who have been getting away with these things for decades and believe that they were above the law. So for that reason, I particularly have found interest in covering the Diddy case as well, because I do see a lot of similarities with the Diddy case and the R. Kelly case that I was involved in. Hey there. So we've got Frankie from Gilbert, Arizona. We have Kimberly Hall from North Carolina, Purple Passion. Hey, Simone. This is Due the Time. You're back. Thank you so much. Emerge, Trap Addict. Oh, yes. Trap Addict said, yeah, buddy, I'm here for it. I know it's about to go down. And Trap Addict wants to know, I want to know if what's in the transcript is really what happened or has it been tampered with? You know what? I think we should start there. We're going to start because we went so late and there was so much going on with that transcript that the way my ADD is set up is this. I need to know kind of what we're going to talk about, like if I'm going to watch a YouTube. So what we'll go into first is I'm going to do a summary of the transcript. I have the transcript here that we went over last night in the YSL Woody case. And rather than reading it, because my ADD can't handle that again, I'm going to go over and explain overall what it really truly said in comparison to what some of the allegations were. And then we're also going to talk about what does it mean for the rest of the case. And then as well, after we do that, we're going to talk about the Diddy case, where it's at, and you guys are getting the tea as far as the grand jury. We're going to talk about how that works. And if attorney Kayla Bumpus is going to be able to meet us, join us today as a criminal attorney, I wanted to give her the opportunity to explain to you guys some of the elements of a grand jury and how they work. So first of all, yeah, and feel free to drop your questions in the chat, hit that subscribe and hit that like button. So it looks like we got 485 so far watching. So definitely hit that like. I really appreciate that. And subscribing means so much to me, guys, because I know people watch videos all the time and don't subscribe. But by subscribing, it allows me to go to sponsors and say, hey, I got this many subscribers. They don't just look at views, they look at subscribers. So that helps a ton. All right. So this YSL transcript, let me just go on and put it on the screen for y'all as I give you the summary. Oh, Sherry D from London, watching from London. I did study abroad in London in college, and I lived in Knightsbridge. Oh, I don't know if that's it. Oh, let me get that off the screen. Oh, that's from a different case. Hold on. Did I call it? Let's see. Let's switch this. Here we go. Oh, actually, you know what? I'm gonna put that back in since you guys are just rolling in and joining the chat. Don't worry, this is not like a contract from one of my former clients or anything. I'm gonna show you what this is, though. This is a bit of tea. We can talk about it while y'all are coming in. What this is that I have here on the screen, this is actually a copy of the lease that I got. Lease provisions for 50 Cent's lease of the new studio that he's got in Shreveport. Now, if you remember, 50 Cent was very proud that next to Tyler Perry, he is the only African-American man that owns his own film studio in America. He launched his in Shreveport, Louisiana. He selected Shreveport in part because the state of Louisiana offers a lot of tax subsidies and incentives. Here's the tea and why I took down and I screenshotted the provisions from the lease agreement that 50 Cent has. 50 Cent has, I believe it is 30,000 square feet, 30,000 to 47,000 square feet studio lot that he's got there in Louisiana. And what's really cool about how he did it is that Shreveport is basically counting on him to bring, and this studio to bring so much business to the city that it's worth the incentives that they gave him. So what did they give him? To give, and they're giving him this, like I said, 40 some thousand square foot land in exchange for what I've seen is the most amazing lease agreement in life. This lease agreement, he's only got to pay $2,500 a month. Look at it. Come on. $2,500 per month. Let me go right to it. And that is on this lease agreement. Let's see, it's on the bottom of, let's see, one of these pages. Oh yeah, it's got, this is the G unit lease. It talks about that as Exhibit B, blah, blah, blah. Let me see. All these pages. Yep. Let me see if I have any more pages. But yes, at the bottom of it, it may not be at the bottom of this page. I got it on further obtained, the lease agreement filed therein. He's got all these different things. But yes, he's only got to pay $2,500, and it's only $2,500 for the next 30 years. 30 years from now, this is going to be like he's paying $250 a month. That's it. He doesn't owe anything more, and they're giving him tax subsidies as well. So that's part of why I had pulled that down. So let's get back to YSL. So in the YSL hearing, the number one bombshell for me, as I was reading this, was learning that. So initially it starts out that the hearing is the members of the meeting are the state, the judge, and attorney Kayla Bumpus. YSL Woody was not in the meeting initially. Actually, correction. Here we go. We got it here. I'm going to put it on the screen. Initially, it was actually the state and the judge in the hearing. There we go. The state and the judge, and the state is expressing basically her issues and her concerns that potentially the prior attorney for Mr. Copeland wasn't working in his best interest and instead might actually be working with the lawyers for the other YSL defendants to make the state's case harder and basically to prevent witnesses from testifying, specifically Woody Copeland. In reality, though, what it seems like from the transcript is that it was expected from the beginning that YSL Woody would be called, but that he'd take the stand and simply plead the fifth. Pleading the fifth would basically mean that there was nothing further for the attorneys to do. And at the same time, his initial lawyer had a vacation set for those dates. Not only did he have a vacation set for those dates in June, back in December, that attorney, which is Melnick, informed the court he would be unavailable because he would be on vacation in June. June comes around and the judge says, we're not honoring your vacation request. Let me tell you, for someone who has been involved in a 5-month trial with 9 months of prior jury selection, if I were that lawyer, Mr. Melnick, I'd be livid, okay? Livid with Judge Glenville. So ultimately, they used the technicality. So what the judge was claiming and what the state prosecutors were claiming is that, and this, I know it sounds petty, but it's important. What they're claiming is that because he filed the vacation request in YSL Woody's case, but didn't file it in Young Thug's case, that it shouldn't apply to Young Thug's case. It doesn't matter. It was a non-refundable vacation. We don't know what he was doing, but he had a commitment. So therefore he had Attorney Bumpus stand in. So that was initially what it is. Then comes to find out, because Attorney Bumpus is like, hey, I'm just supposed to be here for this one day. He's supposed to plead the fifth, and then it's supposed to be over. Like, my commitment is supposed to be done. So apparently, the night before Woody is supposed to testify, he informs the prosecutor that if he's called to testify, he's pleading the fifth. Well, apparently the prosecution gets together and decides, well, if he's going to do that, we're going to force him to testify. What that means is that when they evaluated their case, there was something about the facts as the state has them and the evidence as the state is assessing their case that made them say, we can't do this, or we don't think we can win without Woody. So we're going to force him to testify. The only way you can force someone to testify is by giving them immunity. And that is because when you give them immunity, it means you take away the risk that they could ever be tried for criminal offenses based on their testimony. So pleading the fifth is basically, would be me saying, hey, I'm not going to speak because I could be charged for what I say. Therefore, when the state comes in and says, no, you can't, we're going to give you a written agreement that says you cannot, the law forces someone to testify. So Wiggs and Wine asks, where does he actually admit to a specific crime? It seems like he's admitted to generalized crimes, and that is correct. Let's go to that. I believe it is like around 4951. We're going to it. He does not admit to any specific crimes. So when I believe his attorney Steele alleged that he admitted to the M-word, M-word is one of the many allegations that the defendants, as part of the whole RICO, are accused of. And that's one of the things that he simply said. Let me pull this down. And he basically says, I did everything. Woody says, I did everything. So let me get to that. Here we go. Miss Bumpus is Woody's attorney at the time. Miss Bumpus says, you've got to make a decision, as in he's got to decide, is he going to testify or keep sitting in jail? Now, initially, Woody's understanding was that he'd only have to sit in jail until the end of this trial. In this secret meeting, the judge explains, and the state, that not only would he have to sit through this trial, but it's going to be until the end of all of the YSL defendants' trials. Ain't no telling when that's going to be. That literally could be years from now. The reason being, in the hearing just on Monday or Friday, one of the two, they just revealed that there are still some defendants that haven't even been arrested yet. Their attorney has just been appointed. The attorney hasn't even met them yet. So they're at the beginning stages. So he has found out for the first time that it's not just this case. He was willing to sit in jail to not have to testify during this case, but he was concerned about having to sit through an indefinite period. Here, Attorney Bumpus says, you got to make a decision. So if he starts testifying, and this is Bumpus saying, you have to make a decision. So if he starts testifying today, he's going to go home today, the state. He should, so long as he remains. But if you get up there and be like, if you get to testifying and then get into it and you start saying, I plead the fifth, you're going to go back here again, meaning to jail, Miss Bumpus. But if he says he doesn't recall to everything, will he be okay? The state. I'm not advising that, but so long as he answers the questions, that's fine. Mr. Copeland, I did the crimes. I'm telling you that. Miss Hilton, okay. I don't know what you're talking about, Miss Bumpus. I think you're saying you want to get up there on the stand and say something. Mr. Copeland says nothing. So what people are referring to is this line here, line 17, where Mr. Copeland says, I did the crimes. I'm telling you that. I don't believe that he did the crimes. But what it does seem here is that because he's realized that there's no way to get out of testifying aside from being in jail indefinitely for years, what he begins to think is that, well, if I have to testify, if I go up there and I said I did everything, if they're telling me they can't charge me with nothing, but if I get up there and I say I did everything, at least I'm not breaking the code. I'm not ratting. Because again, with the street code, there's nothing wrong, according to these people, with admitting to something you didn't do. But there's everything wrong with saying somebody else did something. So it's really asinine. It's real goofy, but it is what it is. So the other part of that is previously these other sections. They're spending all this time in this hearing. So much of this time was about trying to determine, or the state is trying to imply that Mr. Copeland is scared for his life, perhaps due to threats. But actually, Mr. Copeland implies he's scared because street code. He says you're going to get him killed, right? He's being held actually in the DeKalb County jail, not Fulton, but but that's the same jail as many of the other defendants in this case. It's just such a high-profile jail. They're trying to keep them apart. But the biggest takeaway from this secret meeting is that even if he's lying, it doesn't matter. On the record, he said, I did these things. So that's considered exculpatory. And that's something that the defendant should have been informed of immediately. Instead, what Judge Glenville did is try to punish the defendant's lawyer. And at no point during any of these hearings did Judge Glenville ever say, oh, and by the way, during the ex parte hearing, we obtained some exculpatory information, meaning some information that would imply your client could be less guilty or innocent, or would show that your client, may not be liable for this. Instead, Judge Granville actually says the opposite. He says, we didn't get anything exculpatory. Sorry. You can't do that. You can't do that. But that's exactly why ex parte hearings and meetings are bad and going to get him in a lot of trouble and could cause a mistrial here, is because the defendant's attorney, maybe not the defendant himself. No, the defendant doesn't have the right to sit in there, but he sure as heck has a right for his attorney to be in there and to be able to hear everything that the prosecutor is telling Woody with respect to how the agreement works. Because effectively what Woody is trying to do is say, well, I'm going to just go up on the stand. If you're going to force me to testify, I'm going to go on the stand and lie, whether in some capacity. So as a result, that's important for the jury to know. If you were on a jury, let me know in the chat. Would you want to know whether this was going on behind the scenes, and how would it impact how you see the case? So let me know if you have any other questions about the transcript, but those are basically some of the key points and takeaways from it, as well as, here we go. As well as in this section, this is an example of, as well, he's really confused about the fact that they keep telling him you can only get in trouble for perjury or false statements. But then they say, we're not going to lock you up based on anything you say. In his mind, he's like, but I thought you said you're going to lock me up for perjury. So you're either lock me up or you're not. I don't understand. But what they keep telling him is what the state is implying is she's saying, the state is saying, well, we're not going to lock you up for perjury, but what we're going to do is if you get up there and you say something different than what you said in your interviews with the detectives, we're going to pull out the video of your prior statements, and we're going to use that to show that your statements are inconsistent. Either way, I think for the regular person, the non-lawyer, it's confusing, it's misleading. And if you're in a situation as a witness, and mind you, here, he had already started his testimony. But when they swore him in on Friday and he said, I plead the fifth, they had already sworn him in, which means he's in the middle of testifying. If you're in the middle of testifying, a judge tells you, hey, no, it's not just this trial you can be locked up for, but indefinitely until whenever this is done. And we don't know when it's going to be done because there's still people who may not have even been charged yet. That needs to be known. And secondly, when you keep telling the prosecutor, well, if you make me go up there, I'm finna lie. And she says, well, okay, but she keeps continuing to say, I want you to tell the truth. I want you to tell the truth. Then of course it creates a huge problem. Hey, Blondie. Hey, everyone. We got Miss Red Peach Smith is there. Miss Traw Cummings. She says, Miss Traw coming for YSL. I feel like the only way they might be able to save this would be if Glenville is either required or chooses to recuse himself. Regarding Glenville's recusal, here's what I anticipate may likely happen. The way judges work, now Glenville is the head judge of Fulton County. He is the judge over all the other judges. On the Supreme Court, it's Judge Justice Roberts. He's like the head honcho guy. Because Glenville is the head judge, he don't want to embarrass himself. So what I anticipate is while the other judges are looking into this, and that's currently what's happening. Oh, thank you so much, Sherry. Hit that like button. That's right. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. Somebody, Red Peach said, Glenville is arrogant. So let me be clear. I want to clarify what is going on with Glenville and this trial and this hearing. So there's a little bit of confusion. Earlier this morning on my Instagram, I had posted a brief short summary. And someone said, well, Glenville has already recused himself. Kind of, but not. Glenville has only recused himself from overseeing Brian Steele's contempt hearing. And he only did that because he had to. The law specifically says where you are a witness to an incident, whatever the incident is, you can't also be the judge. Because if you're a witness, you have to be sworn under oath to testify as to what you saw. What's going on now is Brian Steele has requested a hearing to determine whether he should actually be held in contempt. That has to be held by a different judge. It can't be done by Glenville because Glenville has to be a witness, because Glenville is going to have to be sworn in and say the reason he was held in contempt is because he obtained this information as far as there being this secret meeting and would not tell me who told him. You can't get that admitted into a case both as a judge. It has to be sworn in. So that's part one. So Glenville only recused himself from evaluating whether Brian Steele's contempt and jailing was proper. He is still technically the judge over the whole YSL trial. However, because all the defendants have filed motions to recuse him or have a mistrial, he has paused the entire trial so that other judges that are independent can review and determine whether or not he does need to recuse himself or whether there is going to be a mistrial. Therefore, the case is on pause until other judges make a ruling on that. So I just wanted to be clear on that. And that he has not recused himself from the main trial, which he should have. But what I anticipate is this. I think those other judges are going to do their review of the facts in each of these defendant motions. More than likely, they're going to be like, hell yeah, you need to recuse, right? But I think they're going to probably, behind the scenes, call up Glenville and be like, look, bruh, we're about to recuse you. But before we do that, we're going to give you the chance to recuse yourself. So last chance. Because all the defendants in court asked Glenville to recuse himself before they filed these written motions. He immediately said, nope, not doing it. I think that before he gets embarrassed by other judges forcing him to, they're probably going to give him a chance to. So I say that to say, if a week from now or so, whenever they're done with this review, we don't know how long it could take. It could be a week, it could be 2 weeks. But when they're done with this review, and it would not be surprising if all of a sudden we see Glenville come out and say, oh, I'm going to recuse myself. Only because he was finna be embarrassed. Only because he was finna be embarrassed. Don't let these judges fool you. They're arrogant. Hey there, you're in Orange County. Happy grand jury that here is hearing from victims of Diddy. Absolutely. So let me know in the chat if you've got any other questions about, here we go. If you've got any other questions about the YSL hearing transcript and its significance, But we're going to go now to Diddy and the grand jury and what that means. Okay. So I received intel that the grand jury is currently meeting in Diddy's criminal trial. Specifically, what's been going on is that the feds, Homeland Security and the feds, have been doing what's called sending subpoenas to witnesses. That means these witnesses are not voluntarily coming. If you're voluntarily coming, you don't generally need to be subpoenaed. You can be, but you don't have to be. So subpoena means these are people whose names have been dropped. Now, how they got these names, it's unclear. No, Tisa Tells did not tell me. I'm an actual lawyer. So like I get my intel from like the legal community, but thanks. Actually, Make It Make Sense is doing a video on this, so I would check his out too. I'm sure Tisa is covering it too. I don't know which other bloggers are covering it as well, but I know that Tisa has been talking about it coming as well. Oh, okay. Sorry, Princess Warrior. But no, I support all the bloggers that are accurate. So the more the merrier. But definitely check out Mims and his review of it. Oh, yeah. I hope she sees it too. Because I think she was one of the first ones that I saw who talked about how the grand jury was coming. And she had a timeline that I agreed with. I think she thought it was going to be a bit sooner. I am thinking that his criminal charges, and I'm in agreement with her that he's going to get charged. My educated guess is that it has been end of summer. The reason that I say end of summer is because the number of boxes they toted away from this man's house, they are going to want to go through those with a fine-tooth comb. Okay, they're going to want to go through those and get as many strong charges as possible. But here's what's going on now with the grand jury. So the grand jury is secretive. We don't know who is on the grand jury, but what happens in federal cases is the members of that grand jury, they get convened. And then it's similar to a regular jury, but different. And I'll have someone come on who can break down how grand juries work on the federal side. But basically, they get pulled together and in secret, they review and they listen to the evidence. They listen to multiple different witnesses that are going to come and state what they've said. Now, my guess is it's going to be a bunch of people who have attended these Diddy sex parties. You got to start there. It very likely will be the drug mule, Brendan, is rumored to be one of those. And we're likely going to start there because in a prior video, when I've broken down how it works, immunity and so forth, his offense, Brendan, like carrying the drugs that he was caught with, that's such a low level offense that those are absolutely the kinds of people that you want to use to get to the big dogs. Specifically, he got some probation sentence on the state court issue of carrying drugs. Brendan was a drug mule that was found to be holding drugs when Diddy landed to get his private plane landed in the Miami area. So Brendan was found to have drugs on him. And here's the thing. He was charged through the state of Florida. But because the drugs were found while on a plane, that airplane and all airplanes are part of federal law. So even if the state charges you, the feds can charge you separately. So I believe the feds will use the fear of that to effectively get him to become a state's witness. They would likely give him complete immunity to tell everything that he knows. Because we all know if there's somebody that knows the tea, it's going to be the drug mule. He's the one who can testify as to who he provided drugs to, under what circumstances, at which parties, etc., etc. Red Peach has asked, do I think Diddy's going to go to jail? Yeah, Diddy's going to go to jail for sure. That's yes. When I started the video today, I explained that I am one of the attorneys. I was the first attorney to file suit against R. Kelly in the state of New York for his offenses against the various different people that he's heard. And I did it under the version of the basically the Me Too movement act that they had there, that now is being used against Diddy and against a variety of other people to pursue those charges. But I absolutely do believe that Diddy is going to jail for something because there's just way too many offenses. I think they might start with something simpler like wire fraud, mail fraud. They love to pull in those white collar type of offenses, like I said, like wire fraud, something that deals with not paying taxes for everything that you've actually done, or sending money. He sends money to a lot of women and a lot of the sex workers. When you send money to people, but you take it on your taxes, is something else. I bet a lot of this sex worker money, he's found ways, or his accountant has found ways, maybe calling it consulting or this, that, and a third. Those are all real easy ways for the feds to get him. Hold on. It says, oh, okay. Wiggs and Wine is asking, can the court reporter tamper with the transcript? Is the machine tamper proof? I think, Wiggs, I think you were asking about the YSL transcript that I put up. The answer is hypothetically they could, but I'm sure that they didn't, because I received this from one of the lawyers in the case. And that lawyer sent it to me because it was accurate. So that lawyer reviewed it first. And I don't tell my lawyer sources until the lawyers tell me it's okay, because I love my sources. But I'll say I got it from one of the attorneys in the YSL case. And therefore, that's how I know that it's accurate. Because if it wasn't, they would have told me and been like, hey, let the people know it's not accurate. Okay. I do think he'll do time. Diddy will do time. Do I think anyone has videotapes of some of those sex parties? Oh, yeah, for sure. Oh, for sure. I believe that a lot of the boxes that were taken away were boxes that showed that footage, that show different forms of footage for that. It's also rumored that, in part, the way that the Cassie hotel video leaked was that it was either one of the videos collected during that feds raid, or, but also, remember, maybe you don't remember, Cassie settled with the hotel. See, a lot of people either don't know or keep forgetting that before that video ever came out, before Cassie settled with Diddy, Cassie settled with the hotel where that beating occurred. How do we know that? It's actually right there in the language of her petition. One of the statutes that Cassie used to sue everyone is there's a law that basically said you were one of the people who either committed the acts or assisted with the cover up of the acts. That's how they got to that multi-million-dollar hotel, which was the Intercontinental Hotel, was what it was called back then. And it does not matter that that hotel is now bankrupt. And that is because, oh yeah, H2O Ice. Oh yeah, let me see if I can get that. I can see if I can get that petition up. I might even be able to show you that section. It doesn't matter that that hotel is bankrupt, because, again, as I mentioned before with Diddy, Cassie's lawyers went after the hotel and the insurance policy that they had in play. And that is because what that hotel had, arguably, they could argue negligent security, but they could also argue that they were co-conspirators by accepting the $50,000 from Diddy to make that video go away. And let's think about this. The only reason that it wasn't publicized that Cassie settled with them is because the hotel, unlike Diddy, had the good sense to settle so that the lawsuit never got filed. So that's the type of law that I do. I do serious injury. I do wrongful death. I do civil lawsuits where you are suing businesses or corporations for either injuring or killing yourself or your loved ones. And what we do in those instances is we're very clear that confidentiality can often be worth millions, especially to publicly traded companies like the Hotel Intercontinental. They would never want it to get out that they allowed something like this to happen to any of their guests. So as an attorney, her lawyer first sent what's called a written demand that said, hey, if you give us the limits of your insurance policy, however many millions that is, we'll sign a confidentiality agreement. But if you make us go to court, we won't. And that's true. And under the law, they wouldn't have to. They would be able to go to trial and blah, 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 blah. So yeah, she was able to get the money from the hotel there. Going back to the grand jury, what we will likely see is like, so with the grand jury, what happens is the sole goal with the grand jury is to return an indictment of criminal charges against Diddy. So what's going to happen is they're going to parade in, as in the U.S. Attorney's Office. Now, yes, this is a federal case. I'm going to refer to the U.S. Attorney's Office as the prosecutor. It's just easier to say that way. The prosecutor is going to parade in a bunch of different witnesses that are going to testify as to what crimes they've seen committed at Diddy's house. Now, the number one and the easiest one, the oldest one in the history of time, is going to be prostitution. So we'll start with prostitution. And with the prostitution charges, it's going to be a lot of different sex workers that likely would be able to say, hey, you used to pay me frequently, or maybe I was the Tuesday boy or the Tuesday girl. Oh, and trust and believe, it's not all women. It's not all men. It's going to be a combination. Yeah. But what's also going to be interesting is, in order to get their testimony, the prosecutor is going to have to offer them, as in the sex workers or any potential witnesses, they're going to have to offer a lot of them immunity. That's because otherwise they may try to get on that stand and plead the fifth and say, I don't want to testify to this because I could incriminate myself. Again, YSL Woody's case, that's why I wanted to start with that one today, teaches us that the only way to prevent someone, at least at trial, from pleading the fifth is by giving them immunity. When you give someone immunity, you force them to spill it, tell them all that they know. So I'm really interested, and I'm looking forward to eventually these witnesses, the witnesses that are going to be, for the state or for the defense, those names are going to become public. I feel terribly sorry for them. Initially, the indictment and all of the witness names are going to be sealed, but eventually at some point, they're going to become public, and that's when we're going to know more. But right now, all we know is that grand jury is deliberating. They're hearing evidence. And I want to hear from you guys in the chat. Who are some of the people that you're hoping get called, or that if you were the attorney on the state side, who are some people you want to call? Now, we know the star witnesses are going to be Cassie, are going to be Little Rod, the Jane Doe, and the young lady who was the teenager that was flown, or the third, basically those four. We know that they're going to be called, and they're happily going to testify in front of the grand jury. But as for the rest, we're going to still have to sit back and see who's going to be included there. Gotcha. What Deion Jones said, Lori Harvey. Oh, that could be interesting. But I have a feeling that Lori Harvey probably didn't see anything too gross. I feel like those kind of nasty men, the Diddys, the R. Kellys, they know who they can play with, and they generally don't play with people who have daddies. And I'm saying this from personal experience. Like, I just feel like with a Lori Harvey, yeah, Steve Harvey is a Mr. Funny Man, but it's something about him where he don't play about his, and that you will really have to deal with some like real world problems, some first world problems. Like, Steve Harvey is not scared of a Diddy. I don't really know how to explain it. If you've ever seen my daddy, where's the picture of my daddy? If you ever seen my daddy looks like a working class version of Steve Harvey, from the box top fade, mustache, like whole thing back when Steve had hair. But yeah, no. I actually think Steve Harvey could probably whoop Diddy's behind. If they tussle, because Diddy was the type that, like, he'll pull out a stick or something on you if he's losing a fight. He'll like pull out a stick. Like Diddy, he can't go like toe to toe. He's never like fought fair in anything in his life. I mean, those are the kind of men that beat women. So there's that. But yeah, no, Lori Harvey, I would doubt that one. But Columbus Baldwin has said, and this is speaking about the YSL Woody transcript, says the transcript appears to not be complete. The defense claims that in the ex parte meeting, Woody said he would lie and say he offed some guy named Nut. That statement is not in the transcript. So that's correct that it's not in there. But I think it would be, if that were true, I think Attorney Bumpus would have admitted to that. And she, I haven't seen her or heard her make a statement as to whether or not that's true. But also, like, a lot of what part of the challenge is because the defense wasn't there. That wasn't. But it'll be interesting to see what objections the defense makes to the transcript. Audrey O'Day. Oh, she would be an excellent witness. Now, I don't know that she's seen much of the crimes, though, that would be within the statute of limitations. The reason I say that is for federal offenses, it's 5 years. Federal offenses is 5 years. We are in 2024, so that means only back to 19. And Diddy been hating on Aubrey. He been hating Aubrey. He been hating Aubrey for like the last decade. So I don't know that that would have been talking about Steve Harvey. ACOI said we talked about had a F around and find out kind of daddy. Absolutely. Oh my gosh. I'm like very proud of this now because my dad's retired, but like I was very proud. I graduated from Cornell Law School, and at schools like that, you learn nothing. Like you learn like very useless things. Like you learn like the concept of law, but I was very happy that I was able to actually expunge my daddy's record from that one time he was on Crime Stoppers because somebody had to actually F around and find out because they messed with, they messed with one of our family members. My dad's, I shouldn't say his name, but my dad's nickname is named after a very famous fighter because my dad was known for whipping everybody's tail in those West Dallas projects. If you know anything about the West Dallas projects, you also know about their lead poisoning. Had a lot of lead in the water. And if you've ever fought with anyone with lead poisoning, boy, they don't give up. Woo! That brain just be knocking around in there. Do the Time says, I think the transcript is complete. I listened to Attorney Bumpus on another platform and stated that Steele and others on the defense knew about the meeting before she discussed it with them. Oh, that's interesting. Reading the transcript, it seemed complete as well. There were no, usually if something's redacted, there will be you'll see actual redaction boxes. He just couldn't get away with doing an incomplete transcript. It can't happen at this point. It can't happen. Petty proud. I know I'm ridiculous. Do the Time says the difference was that it was not from a legal perspective. Steele got a little secret tea from a person who either saw or spoke from what they thought had happened. See, that makes sense too, because Steele could have gotten his tea from somebody that Woody told it to. Because, baby, in that transcript, Woody was a whole mess. Woody was so sick of these people. It says, and then they went to Bumpus to get the true information and the whole story. I know she's so sick of this. All right, so I had asked in the chat, let me know who you think the grand jury may want to hear from, and who, if you were a prosecutor or the defense witness, who would you want to hear from? Now, here's the interesting thing about a grand jury. The defense does not get to put anybody in front of a grand jury. The grand jury is exclusively the prosecutor presenting witnesses to this grand jury in hopes of an indictment. So there's no defense presented in any capacity. It is exclusively an attempt to get charges brought. So Red Peach, absolutely. I'll be sure. They said, I'll be sure must know something. Young Miami, for sure. Young Miami, see, that's a tricky one. Now, y'all, let's think this through. That's a tricky one. The reason I say that's a tricky one is she's probably going to plead the fifth. She need to. She probably was a co-conspirator for a number of things. Now, number one, I actually think her and Daphne Joy need to be really, really careful. And if I were them, I would make sure I had a really strong consultation with a federal criminal attorney that specializes in wire fraud. I think her and Daphne Joy need to be real careful. I think they could be facing wire fraud charges. Here's why. We know from her own post, as in Young Miami's own post, at one point she implied that Diddy was giving her something like $100,000 a month as an allowance. But also at one point she posted, I think it was a Rolls Royce, and said that he gifted it to her. Here's the thing, boo-boo. That's cute. That's cute for you. I'm happy for you. but I need you to tell your accountant because you got to pay taxes on that, boo-boo. Any gifts in America, any gifts over approximately $13,000, you got to pay taxes for it, or they're going to come get you. They're going to come get you, boo. So if you were getting an allowance of $100,000 a month plus gifts, oh baby, gifts count. Gifts count. You receive more than $12,000 and you're not paying taxes. And Young Miami, bless her heart, cute as she is, she don't look like she like to pay a lot of taxes. She don't seem like the type. But I don't know. Also, you can't just put that on somebody's accountant, because accountants they file your taxes based on what you present to him. And I'm sure she wasn't like, oh yeah, I was pussy popping at Diddy's house on Thursday and he bought me a Rolls Royce and then boom, they filed pursuant to that. No, absolutely not. Absolutely not. So I think that's going to be a tricky one. So Young Miami, same thing with Daphne Joy. And Daphne. Now, Daphne, she's about to have to start selling pussy peas, pee pics, and foot pics on OnlyFans. So if that's your kind of girl, y'all might need to go on over to OnlyFans and give her a few dollars, because not only is she in the middle of a custody battle with 50 Cent, he ain't giving her a dime for her legal expenses. So if Diddy's not giving her money for legal expenses, which absolutely could be a conflict of interest, and Diddy is currently having financial problems because we've seen that Diddy recently fired or was fired by his civil attorneys in a separate lawsuit. Diddy's having trouble paying everybody. So if he can't pay for his own lawsuits to continue, he sure don't have money for his little sex workers. Now, oh gosh, as far as witnesses, potential witnesses they may want to hear from, T.D. Jakes and Stevie J. Well, I know if I was a prosecutor, T.D. Jakes would be one of the first people I call, because who would expect a pastor to lie? Who? Now, I would want to interview him first to hear what he's going to say, but no, who would expect him to lie? Kimora. Oh, I think Kimora Simmons, you won't even have to subpoena her. You just text message her and be like, hey girl, could you show up at the courthouse at this time? She's going to be like, sure, no problem. She's going to be ready. She's probably going to have a little folder with evidence, with photos. She's probably going to be one of the greatest assistants to the prosecutors possible. Of course, Cassie, we talked about Jaguar White. Don't you call her. Nope. That lady is so impeachable. You know what? No, I disagree. I would call her to testify for a grand jury, because the defense attorneys don't get to be present at the grand jury. So she can go up there and she can say whatever crazy shit she wants to say. And you'll be like, it's just up to the jury what they want to, the grand jury, what they wish to accept. But she can just go for it. Like, all right, Miss Jaguar, tell us about da-da-da-da-da. Hopefully she's taking her medicine that day, so she's a little more coherent. But yeah, I would definitely call Jaguar. Why not? Now, I would never have her be my witness at a trial. No. But just because you call him at a grand jury doesn't mean you have to call him at the trial. Remember, the grand jury's goal is to get an indictment, and the threshold is much lower than what you need at trial. All right. Young Miami would be the Woody of that trial. Oh my God. Young Miami would probably be she would be really good on trial, because I think she would be nice, nasty. First of all, her looks. Every day of that trial, I'm watching for her looks. Okay, she's going to be, Santana's going to dress her. And Santana's probably going to be there too. I can see Santana like dressed in like all black with like some gloves as though he's going to a funeral. I think it's going to be very fancy. Mace. Oh, Mace. See, but the problem with Mace has issues with him, but I don't believe that Mace has seen anything that would have taken place within the statute of limitations. Keep in mind, the statute of limitations is within 5 years for federal offenses generally. So that would be things that happened from 2019 to today. Oh, Gene Deal, the ex-bodyguard. Oh, yeah. Oh, yes. Where is I got a hammer. I don't know where my gavel is. But Gene Deal, for sure, we'd want to call him as a witness. Who else? Tell me who else you would want to see as called as a witness, whether it's just for comedic fodder or you think they probably have some good information. H2O Ice says, oh, hit that like button, y'all. Hit that subscribe too. We need more likes on this one. It says tax fraud will be slapped on anyone partying with Diddy. I think tax fraud would be particularly for his girlfriends of, many years, that kind of thing. Penny Proud. What about those drugs she transported? Oh yeah. That's what she needs. She's gonna need a good lawyer. She's gonna have to probably pay her lawyer $500,000 easy. Somebody said, is Jaguar right a reliable source? Probably not. That's the thing about the grand jury. Because the state gets to present whoever they want. While, yes, we have an ethical obligation to not be like completely ridiculous, the state does, like, they could call somebody who's a bit questionable, and then they just put it on the grand jury to decide if they want to accept or reject that particular person's testimony. But in the end, the grand jury is going to just evaluate everything as a whole. Somebody said we would see all the Do the Time says all the making of the band groups. Absolutely. Brendan Paul, that is the drug mule. Oh, I want to see everything from that little dirty gentleman. He just looks like a dirty college student. Like one of those boys in college who probably never went to class, but possibly made straight A's the whole time. He probably stunk a little bit, smelled like cigarettes and butt. That's what he gives, Brendan Paul. Let me find a picture of him. Let me see if there's some Brendan Paul. Y'all see what I'm talking about. Brendan Paul, the drug mule. Bless his little heart. He always looks like he's having a tough day. Here we go. Bless his little heart. So I get his picture big. Here we go. I'm going to share it. Oh, here we go. See? There you go. Oh, bless his little heart. All right, so it says, Trap Addict states the judge in YSL case put some inaccurate information on the record yesterday. Some things that he said contradict what's in the transcript. Absolutely. Feel free to drop some of those that you said. So what I did yesterday is we went through what the judge said in the hearing yesterday in the YSL case on the record. And the purpose of what the judge said yesterday was really to cover his behind. It seems that over the weekend, he likely had some memos done, some research done, basically, did his readings, caught up on the law, and realized that what he was doing and has been doing does not comprise with the law. It's not consistent with the law. So it was his way of creating a record and then trying to use that to fall back. Because the gist of what the YSL judge did yesterday was he basically said, hey, I've done nothing wrong, but even though I've done nothing wrong, what I'm going to do is we're going to pause the trial right now until other judges can determine whether I should be recused from the entire case. I'm also going to pause indefinitely the show cause hearing that I had set to determine whether Kayla and Woody were wrong for telling anybody about the ex parte hearing, because the judge still doesn't know whether it was them or someone else. And the third part is he used that hearing to basically say he changed his mind and was going to recuse himself from Brian Steele's contempt issue review. That's what he was doing. And the only reason he recused himself from the Brian Steele controversy is because he read the law and saw that he was dead wrong for trying to oversee a contempt hearing that involved himself. Somebody said pastors lie all the time, talking about calling TD Jakes. Oh, of course, they absolutely do. But again, in a grand jury, the sole goal of the prosecutor is to get an indictment. So all they care about is what witnesses can we put in front of the jury to get what we want. Somebody said, call Ebony, Kim's best friend that lives in Atlanta. Ooh. Somebody said, Kimora is questionable with all of her dirty dealings as far as calling Kimora as a witness. I feel like half the people that would be called are probably going to be questionable. Jag ain't credible. It's been confirmed. She's never even met Diddy. Now that's very interesting. Justin Bieber and I'll be sure for sure. Oh, Jay-Z. Oh my God. Let me tell you something. Jay-Z is going to take all of his millions. Maybe not all of them. He's going to take a lot of money to pay an attorney to have to not in any way be called, be involved, or anything with this. Trust and believe. Gene Deal, this is the former bodyguard of Diddy. Diddy's mom. Oh, maybe she's going to testify about how he slapped her. I don't know. He didn't slap that wig off, though. That lady, the way her commitment to the color blonde is, I wish I could find a man as committed to me as she is to those blonde wigs. Bless her heart. Oh, Penny Proud, great point. That she's stating that they're definitely going to call Diddy's sons to the stand. Yeah. Well, not only that, as of now, in the civil cases, they are listed as co-defendants in some of those cases. So now let's hope, well, I would hope that they're not brought into any criminal charges. Oh, Little Rod, again, Little Rod, you don't even have to tell him where it's at. He's going to be camping out in front of the courthouse, ready to tell his side of the story. Oh, J-Lo to talk about what happened at the club. I think that was going to be a little too late as far as the statute of limitations outside the scope. So J-Lo's going to get away with she can probably get away with not being included in this foolishness due to that. Ooh, videos of inside of Jeffrey Epstein's home have been released. Ooh, okay, I'll have to follow up on that. Wigs and Wine has asked, I wonder, talking about the YSL judge, I wonder how many other cases the judge has not followed the law. Could his cases be reviewed? They could be, but you'd have to have some real strong grounds for it. And that doesn't seem like that would be the case here. That's usually more pervasive. Like recently, one of the situations that's gone viral was a case of a detective, of a police officer that was arresting a guy. I don't remember for what, but he steals, I want to say it's $900 off the guy in the middle of the arrest. And it just happens to get caught on body cam. Now that's a better example of a bunch of different cases that may have to be reviewed, because just as easily as you could steal money from someone that you're arresting as you could plant something on someone you're arresting. Somebody said maybe Diddy's brother-in-law and sister, because they were both in charge at Daddy's house. Now, I used to go to Daddy's house when I was in college. I didn't really know what I was looking at or what I was doing, but I had just found out I was cute. It was my senior year. And for my birthday, I was 20 turning, how old was I? I don't know. I wasn't even 21. Oh, I was sneaking. Anyway, for my birthday one year, my favorite comedian, which is Finesse Mitchell, he had told my friends and I, hey, if we get to New York, you can come to one of my shows. So we went to New York, we went to one of his shows, and I made some friends with somebody else, and we went to Daddy's house. That place was so dark and creepy. It could have been a haunted house, but it was really cool. I just sat around and I just looked at people that were probably famous, but I didn't know who they were because, again, I wasn't even 21 yet. I was 20. I just found out I was cute, and I'd never been in New York City before, so I was just trying to see what that would get me. It says, and here we got Duchess Snowchild. Duchess Snowchild says, props to the YSL jury. Do they get 5-star hotel accommodations while all this foolery is going on? No, but what they do get is $25 a day for the last 5 months. Ta-da! Thanks to the good old government of the state of Georgia. Yes, jurors in Georgia are only paid $25 per day, while state law encourages their companies that hire them or their employers to continue paying them their salary the whole time. They work for small businesses like my title company, for example, or something like that. Chances are, ain't no way. I personally would be upset if you're paying me $25 a day and putting me in a 5-star, give me a 3 and give me the rest of that cash in my pocket. Give me the rest of that money. Oh, if the daughter should be called. I actually believe the daughter saw nothing, because from Cassie's own complaint, she talked about how even when he would whoop up on her, he would keep her away from his kids seeing her because he didn't want the kids to know he was behaving that way. Oh, yeah, call Justin's mom. For sure. Justin's mom, Mary J, is so distancing herself. What Red Peach is saying, in Georgia, some companies require you give that $25 to the company if they are paying you to be on jury duty. I guess that's not terrible. Maybe they're going to use that money, I don't know, towards a donation or a fund. But if they're going to, hey, if you're going to give me my regular salary, I don't mind giving you back the $25. But yes, 5 months, I was thinking that too. How are you supposed to survive TikTok story time. The funny thing is, you can't even do a TikTok story time. As a juror, you can't tell anybody about your experience. You can't talk about it in any way. You can't do any of that until the trial is over. As a result, it's probably highly unlikely that, that just makes you think about the demographic of people that are likely on that jury. It's someone who can afford to be away from their primary jobs for the next 8 months. I don't really know who that is. Retired people, rich people. It's not even self-employed people, because our businesses wouldn't exist. Said, yeah, and if you're a city or government employee, you don't even get the $25 a day. You have to reimburse it because you're still getting paid your regular check. Got it. All right, guys. Well, unfortunately, Attorney Bumpus wasn't able to, hold on a second, wasn't able to join us today, but I will let you guys know if we get to reschedule with her. Again, I know that she is, there we go. I know that she is totally swamped. Yeah, totally swamped and has a bunch going on. Oh, hold on. One more thing before we go. Tia B says, love my hair. Thank you so much, guys. This is a little wig. I'm trying to decide if I like off of Amazon. I got it for $99 and it's like 26 inches. So let me know if you care. I'll drop that link in it. Girl, I need all the little coins. I'm trying to get me some more like editing software and stuff for y'all so I can keep giving y'all content. Also drop in the chat more topics that you want me to cover. One of the ones I'm thinking about, let me know, is Drea and her lawsuit, her multi-million-dollar lawsuit over her oral agreement with her ex-boyfriend, as well as doing a recap of the Karen, gosh, I forget her last name, but the mistrial in that case where she's accused of unaliving her ex-boyfriend cop. So, all right, guys, talk to you guys later. Stay tuned. Hit that subscribe, hit that notification link, and of course, like this video.